Single dad stood by her when her date vanished. Not knowing she was a billionaire CEO, falling hard Ethan Ward was running late. Between picking up his 9-year-old daughter Lily from ballet and making sure she finished her homework, he had almost forgotten about his part-time night shift at the hotel bar. He wasn't supposed to be there tonight, just covering for a sick colleague, but fate had a strange way of rearranging lives. The bar was buzzing, filled with polished laughter and clinking glasses. In the corner, Ethan noticed a woman sitting alone, dressed elegantly in a dark green silk dress that caught the low light. She looked like she belonged in the pages of a magazine, poised, refined, but also lonely. Her name was Clara Moreau, though Ethan didn't know that yet. To the world, she was a billionaire CEO, the youngest tech magnate to ever make the global list. But tonight, she was just a woman waiting for someone who clearly wasn't coming. Minutes passed, then nearly an hour. Her date never showed. Ethan saw her trying to laugh it off, stirring her untouched glass of wine, pretending it didn't sting. He'd seen that look before. It reminded him of Lily on the days her mother never bothered to call. That quiet disappointment. Taking a breath, he walked over. "Sorry to intrude," he said gently, "but it looks like you've been stood up. I can keep you company, if you'd like, just as a friendly stranger." Clara looked up, startled, then smiled faintly. "Bold offer for a bartender. I prefer sympathetic witness," Ethan replied, and his easy humor made her laugh, really laugh, the kind that loosened something in her chest. They talked about travel, about books, about how he was raising Lily alone. Ethan didn't mention how his ex-wife left years ago, or how every penny mattered. He didn't want pity. And Clara didn't mention the private jets, boardrooms, or the fortune her name carried. She just wanted to be seen simply, humanly. By the time the bar quieted, Clara realized hours had passed. For the first time in years, someone had asked about her, not her company, not her money. When she finally stood to leave, Ethan said, "Whoever ditched you tonight, he's an idiot." Clara looked at him, her heart tugging in a way she didn't expect. "You have no idea," she whispered. The next day, Ethan came home from dropping Lily at school to find a sleek black car waiting outside his small apartment. A driver stepped out, holding a note. "Last night meant more than you know. Dinner." Clara, confused but intrigued, he agreed. It wasn't until he arrived at a glittering skyscraper rooftop restaurant that he realized the truth. Every waiter, every guest turned their head when Clara entered. The same woman he'd shared jokes with over a late-night shift was the Clara Moreau, billionaire CEO of Moreau Tech. Ethan froze, embarrassed. "I had no idea." Clara smiled softly, stepping closer. "That's exactly why I like you." For the first time since losing his wife, Ethan felt hope bloom, and for the first time since building her empire. Clara felt her guarded heart beginning to fall for the single dad who treated her not like a billionaire, but like a woman who mattered. Ethan Ward was used to life being messy. Raising his daughter Lily alone meant juggling school drop-offs, work shifts, and late-night grocery runs, all while trying to stretch every dollar just a little further. Tonight was supposed to be a quiet evening, helping Lily with her math homework, maybe heating up mac and cheese, but when his coworker called in sick, he found himself behind the hotel bar instead. It was a busy night, all soft jazz and business chatter. But in the far corner, Ethan noticed her. A woman in a silk emerald dress, polished yet strangely vulnerable. She sat at a table for two, phone in hand, eyes flicking toward the door every few minutes. She ordered wine, but barely touched it. And though her posture was graceful, her expression betrayed disappointment. After nearly an hour, Ethan realized the truth. Her date wasn't coming. He hesitated. Maybe it wasn't his place. But the way she stirred her drink like she was trying to keep herself from crying struck something deep in him. He had seen Lily wear that same look after ballet recitals when her mother promised she'd be there, but never was. Wiping his hands on a towel, Ethan walked over. "Excuse me," he said quietly, "but I've got a pretty good eye for people who've been stood up. If you want, I can sit here and pretend you're not alone. No pressure." The woman blinked at him, surprised. Then, to his relief, she smiled. "That's bold for a bartender." "I prefer professional listener," Ethan said with a grin. She laughed, and just like that, the heaviness in her eyes lifted. A conversation she didn't expect. They talked. At first, lightly travel, favorite foods, funny childhood memories. Ethan told her about Lily and how she loved making pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. He admitted he wasn't great with money, but he tried to give his daughter a normal life. The woman introduced herself as Clara, no last name. She asked about Ethan, but when he turned the question back to her, she dodged. "Just work in tech," she said vaguely. But there was something magnetic about her. She listened with genuine interest, her laughter warm and real, and for the first time in years, Ethan found himself forgetting the weight of bills and responsibilities. As the bar emptied, Clara rose to leave. She slipped her shawl over her shoulders, but before walking out, she turned back. "For what it's worth, whoever didn't show up tonight, he's a fool." Ethan gave a small nod. "He really is." The next morning, Ethan was wrestling with Lily's hair when a knock sounded at the door. Outside stood a man in a suit beside a sleek black car. "Mr. Ward," the man asked. "Miss Clara Moreau asked me to deliver this." He handed over an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "Last night meant more than you know. Dinner tonight. 7 p.m., Clara." Ethan frowned. Clara Moreau. The name tugged at his memory. It wasn't until he Googled it on his cracked old phone that his jaw dropped. Clara Moreau, the billionaire tech CEO, Forbes cover star, youngest woman to build a multi-billion-dollar company. And she wanted dinner with him. That evening, Ethan arrived at a glittering rooftop restaurant downtown. He felt out of place in his clean but faded button-up shirt. Everyone else wore designer suits and gowns. Then, Clara walked in. Heads turned instantly. Cameras clicked. Guests whispered her name like she was royalty. She crossed the room with unshaken grace. But when her eyes landed on Ethan, she softened. "You came," she said. "Still not sure why," he admitted. "You're Clara Moreau, and I'm a good man," she interrupted. "That's what you are." Dinner was unlike anything Ethan had ever experienced. Courses he couldn't pronounce. Waiters who hovered at every gesture. But Clara seemed more interested in his stories about raising Lily than in the luxury surrounding them. By dessert, Ethan asked the question burning in his mind. "Why me?" Clara's eyes held his. "Because you're the only one in years who's seen me as just Clara. Not a billionaire. Not a CEO. Just me." Over the weeks that followed, Clara and Ethan spent more time together. She visited him at his small apartment, laughing as Lily proudly showed her school projects. She even joined them for pancake Sundays, helping shape them into stars and dinosaurs. But not everyone approved. Paparazzi caught them together. Tabloids spun headlines about the mystery single dad at work. Ethan's co-workers teased him. Even Clara's board of directors raised eyebrows. One evening, after a brutal press article, Ethan told her, maybe this was a mistake. "You deserve someone from your world." Clara reached for his hand. "Ethan, the moment you sat at that table, you gave me something no one else has. Honesty. I don't care what the world says. I care about this." And for the first time since his wife left, Ethan believed he was worthy of being loved again. Months later, at a charity gala, Clara walked onto the stage to give a speech. Cameras flashed. Investors leaned forward. But instead of announcing a new deal or expansion, she smiled. "Success means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with," she said, her eyes drifting to Ethan and Lily in the front row. "I learned that not from a boardroom, but from a man who reminded me that the simplest things like pancakes shaped like dinosaurs can matter more than empires. The crowd erupted. Ethan's heart pounded as Clara stepped down, straight to him. "Still think you don't belong in my world?" she whispered. He shook his head, pulling her close. "No, I think we just built a new one together." And in that moment, the billionaire CEO and the single dad realized they hadn't just found love, they had found home.